Hi, and welcome to Scheduled. In this video, I'll show you how to get started with the tool. We'll see together how to properly connect Notion with Scheduled and how to stop copying and pasting posts from Notion to LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. In short, how to automate all that by linking Notion and Scheduled. Then, we'll add a social account. So, for the example, we'll use LinkedIn. This way, in just a few minutes, you'll be able to publish your first posts on LinkedIn or other platforms because Scheduled today allows you to publish on various platforms, and there are more coming soon. So that's going to be really great. So when you arrive, you'll create your account. You'll land on this page. The first thing you need to do is add a content calendar. It represents your editorial calendar that you already have on Notion, or maybe not yet, but it's what will help you organize and manage your posts at specific times on specific accounts, etc. Collaborate with others as well. That's what's great about Notion. So everything starts from here. You will add a content calendar. So as you can see, everything is empty for now, no scheduled posts. That's normal. You need to configure all of this. So the first thing is that you can change the name of your editorial calendar on this schedule. So here, we're going to add my LinkedIn posts, and then we'll proceed to the configuration to connect with the different steps, as you see, with your database and your social account. Anyway, you can connect more if needed. You also need to add a default publication date. Well, a default publication time, sorry. That's great too. And then you can also configure your metrics. We won't cover metrics all the way in this video. That will be for another video. Otherwise, this one would be too long. This is really just to get you started quickly. So, we'll connect your database and at least one social account. So that's the minimum. Let's say to start scheduling posts directly from Notion. So to connect, there's your database. So let's click here. You obviously need to give scheduled access to your Notion. So before granting access by clicking here on Grant Access to Notion, you can, and I highly recommend, download our template. It is completely free and pre-configured to help you move faster. This means it has the right properties to match with Scheduled, like the publication date, the connection where you'll publish your post, the status, etc. And that's it. Minimalist to start. We didn't create a complex system because we realized after several months of testing with many people that the simpler it is to start, the better. What really matters is that you can find your own writing rhythm to get organized and then not stress about it. As for publishing, even tracking stats, etc. So we don't have a complicated system, just a list of ideas that you can drag and drop directly into the calendar on the right. Here you have a few lists with filters, and here we will regularly add small resources, including a template that we will update frequently. So, which is pretty cool because we start from this base and you definitely have the right tips to update what's needed. So if you already have your own, know that it works very well. If you've already downloaded or bought a template from another creator, it will work just fine. You just need to have the required properties to use Scheduled, and there are only 3, not many more. The first one is the publication date, which lets Scheduled know when to publish your post. The connection. We call this property Social Connection. Basically, it's the property that tells Scheduled where to publish your post. So is it on your profile, on your page, your Twitter account, etc.? This is super important because otherwise it won't know where to publish. And the last property is the status, which tells Scheduled when your post is ready to be scheduled and... So these are really the 3 properties, and we'll go through them together. So I've given access to my Notion. Make sure you're in the right workspace before proceeding. You have the list of permissions here that I'll let you review. Now we'll click on Select Page to retrieve. Not a page, but a database. So that's super important. So make sure to centralize things. That means on your Notion, organize yourself a bit in advance. So if you've downloaded the template, you'll find it quite quickly, like here with DB Contents, because the database is called DB Content. Organize yourself well, meaning centralize things. If you want to share a page, your database must be in that page. So that's really important. For example, my page is called Social Media OS. But what I can do is share Social Media OS. You see? So there. He said it's already the case. Actually, I've already clicked, but there you go. And so, of course, if I share the Social Media OS, since Social Media OS contains my content DB, otherwise, you can just share your database. It will work just fine. Especially don't share your entire Notion, because we don't realize it, but there can be a lot of databases. And so imagine that Scheduled has to search through all these databases. You won't necessarily find it right away. There will be a loading time on the schedule side. So the best thing you can do is really share only the database you need. If you use multiple databases because you work with other people, clients, or your team, try to centralize everything on one page. You can call it, for example, your content database vault. I don't know. And that way, you only have to share that vault, that page that contains everything. And also on your side in Notion, once you want to add other databases. Well, you know that if you add to this page, since Scheduled has access to the page that encompasses everything, if you add databases to it, Scheduled will automatically have access. You won't need to change the permissions again, which you can do, but it simplifies things. So centralize and organize yourself well. So here we're going to give them access to DB content. Like this. There you go. Great. Access granted. So we can close this and continue here. Now we can see that we have the necessary authorization, so we click on it. It will then fetch that specific database. So there aren't 50 of them. It's more practical. And here I'll click on it, and we'll continue the setup. So the 3 essential properties that are really required for Scheduled to work well. So there's the social connection, which corresponds to where Scheduled will publish your post. Next, the publication date, the time since, well, date and time of publication, and the status. So with the status connection, be careful. And here we'll put ready to be scheduled to tell Scheduled that when the post has this status, it is ready to be scheduled. And then published to indicate that it is indeed published as the template is in English. Know that if you want to rename it here to connection, publication date, ready to be published, you can do it. I strongly recommend doing it beforehand and not making the connection here and then modifying it. Because if you do that, it will break the synchronization between this schedule and Notion, since Scheduled really relies on the names of your properties. So if you change the name, even just a letter, what happens? Well, it will assume that the property no longer exists, and so the connection can no longer be made. Of course, if the connection is interrupted, you will get an email. You will see an error here, and you can synchronize everything properly. But anyway, to avoid waiting for it to happen, it's better to do things when you configure everything so that you're ready when you need to write posts. So if you're going to rename things, do it now and resynchronize here. You can continue and make sure everything is okay, and you won't need to touch anything afterward. So now, we're going to save all this. Once that's done, well, we just need to connect a social account. For example, we're going to connect LinkedIn, but you see that you can connect Instagram, Facebook, and soon we'll add others like YouTube, TikTok. In short, it's going to be a real adventure, but it's going to be great. So here, we're going to connect LinkedIn. We want to connect our profile to start posting here. Just like with Notion, you'll need to grant the necessary permissions. So, once you have this page like before, you can close all this here. You see, you have your access linked to your profile. So there, by clicking on it, I've connected it, and actually everything is already okay in terms of configuration. You've done what you need to start publishing on LinkedIn from Notion. It's great. You have this little alias, so automatically, once you've connected your LinkedIn profile, if you go to your database that you connected just before, here. So I have a lot of posts here, but that's not important. What I want to show you is that we've connected, if you remember, platform connections for this to allow Scheduled to know where to publish. Actually, in this property that has a select, you need to allow Scheduled to identify the connection you added. And so it's this alias that will allow you to make this link. So this alias, which you find here just below. So each connection you add has its own alias. So when you add a connection, you saw that the alias was already automatically present. So it's because it's scheduled that it added it automatically for you. But just know that this is what will allow you to write your posts. So make sure to change the status, the publication date. It seems quite logical, but make sure to put the correct alias here. And once that's done, everything is okay. You've connected Notion. You've connected your LinkedIn account here. You can add a default publication time. This is quite handy because on Notion, when you add a date, you need to include the time here and then set it to 11 a.m. Sometimes there can be oversights, meaning you might rush, and especially with the calendar, you might drag and drop the post directly into a specific slot. It's good, it's scheduled, but it might be missing. It might be missing the time. So the problem with that is if you don't have the time here, let's say you didn't include the time like here, well, your post will be published at midnight 00, not ideal at all. So for that, what we've done is set a default publication time in case you forget. Well, here you can set, for example, 11 a.m. You're sure that your post, or if you forgot the publication time, well, you save it. At least your post won't be published at midnight, but at 11 a.m., a much more reasonable time. So once you've set all that up, as I mentioned for the metrics, we'll cover it in a video note. You also have these handy widgets here. We'll add videos for that, but the widgets are super useful. For example, you can add your button to schedule directly from Notion. We'll make a short video for that. So once you've set all this up, and especially don't forget, because here you've connected your database that you see here, and at least your LinkedIn account, but the synchronization isn't activated yet. And that's where you'll click here on the Auto Fetch Notion post like this. And then you'll tell Scheduled that everything is okay. Now it will automatically fetch the posts for you. Just know that Scheduled fetches posts every 2 hours. So, this is the cool little automation where you don't have to stress. You put your post, it will be scheduled. However, if you want to publish at the exact minute, that's when you'll need to use these handy little widgets instead of waiting every 2 hours by clicking this button directly in your Notion. To give you a little example, it's a bit like the one you see here. Well, it will allow you to schedule your post right away and ensure that it's properly scheduled with a small message in the comments or an error message to let you know, for instance, if your post is too long. For example, on LinkedIn, it shouldn't exceed 3,000 characters, or if the format of your image isn't correct, or your video, etc. So you'll get immediate feedback. It's quite handy. I admit that now I only work with the button whenever I have a post to schedule, even if it's not immediate, because at least when I click on it, I know I'll get a small comment from Scheduled telling me either my post is well scheduled or there's an issue or something else, and I can see it. So sometimes we can use both, but this little button is more convenient. And that I'll let you check out in the next video. Normally you have access here, or at least in the FAQ, so you can go directly here to the Help Center, and in the Help section you'll find what you need. So to move forward and go further. So there you go. I've told you everything, and you can add other calendars. You have everything you need to get started. There will be other videos on different topics like metrics, as I mentioned, widgets, etc., but don't hesitate if you have any questions or anything else. Well, we're here to help you with support via chat, which is usually at the bottom right of the app or website, or by email at team@scheduled.so. We'll get back to you very quickly. Bye!